All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about one of those moments in history that's just so huge, it's hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about the fall of a single city, way back in 1453. An event so big that its shockwaves literally created the world we live in today.
So how is that even possible? How can one city falling apart completely redraw the map of the world? Well, it's an incredible story of ambition, of game-changing technology, and of consequences that nobody saw coming. This is how the end of one world really became the beginning of another. So let's set the scene. The place? Constantinople, the last flicker of the once mighty Roman Empire. The year? 1453. And this wasn't just another battle. This was the moment the book slammed shut on the Middle Ages. Okay, so to really get this, we have to look at the two major players. And first up is the empire on the very brink of disaster. The legendary, but definitely fading, Byzantine Empire.
Now you gotta understand, the Byzantine Empire was the direct heir to Rome. We're talking a legacy stretching back over 1,000 years. But by the 1450s, man, it was just a shadow of its former self. It had been hollowed out by endless civil wars, the economy was in ruins, and the once massive empire had basically shrunk to just the city of Constantinople itself. Its only real defense, its last hope, were its ancient and supposedly unbreakable walls.
And you know how this goes. As one power fades, another is always waiting in the wings, hungry and ready. So enter the Ottoman Empire, a rising Islamic powerhouse, and their incredibly ambitious, brilliant young leader, Sultan Mehmed II.
And the difference between these two, it couldn't have been more stark. On one side, you have this fragile empire, kind of clinging to its past glory, totally isolated. On the other side, you've got this dynamic, unstoppable military machine, armed with brand new technology and a powerful sense of destiny.
A huge piece of that Ottoman drive was this concept of Gaza. Now, what is that? It's basically an Islamic term for holy war. And for Mehmed, this was a powerful recruiting tool. It gave a spiritual justification for their expansion and attracted warriors from all over the Islamic world who wanted to be part of the cause.
And Sultan Mehmed II? He was completely obsessed with taking Constantinople. His planning was meticulous, just next level. To make sure no help could get to the city, he built this enormous fortress, the Rumeli Hisar, right on the Bosphorus Strait, effectively strangling the city before the siege even began.
For Mehmed, this was way more than just a strategic military objective. It was personal. He truly believed that capturing this city, the legendary Second Rome, was his destiny. It was the ultimate prize that would secure his legacy forever. But here's the real game changer, the secret weapon. Mehmed knew those city walls were famous for being unbreakable. So what does he do? He hires this Hungarian engineer, a guy named Urban, to build something the world had pretty much never seen before, enormous bronze cannons. I'm talking cannons so huge they could fire stone balls weighing more than half a ton. Just imagine the raw power.
And with those cannons, the stage was set for this epic showdown. You have an ancient defense going up against a gunpowder revolution. So let's get into the siege itself, which was a brutal, grueling 53-day ordeal.
The numbers alone tell you just how desperate the situation was. The Ottomans brought a massive army, something like 80,000 soldiers. And inside the city, the defenders had maybe 7,000 men to defend miles and miles of walls. The odds were just staggering.
The whole thing kicked off in early April with this constant, terrifying, earth-shaking bombardment from Mehmed's superguns. Now, to their credit, the defenders fought back like absolute lions. They actually beat back several huge attacks, but the pressure was just relentless, and it all built up to that final, fateful assault on May 29th. But before that final day, Mehmed pulled off one of the most audacious and, frankly, insane military moves in history. You see, the Byzantines had blocked their main harbor with a giant chain, so no Ottoman ships could get in. So, what did Mehmed do? He built a road out of greased logs and just dragged his fleet, around 70 ships, over a hill and dropped them into the water on the other side. Can you imagine seeing that? Absolutely brilliant.
But despite the massive cannons and the overwhelming numbers, the final breach came down to something small: human error. A little side gate, the Porta, was somehow left unlocked. A few Ottoman soldiers found it, they poured through, and just like that, the 1,000-year defense of Constantinople collapsed.
The fall of the city wasn't the end of the story. Not even close. It was actually the beginning of something totally new. And the immediate shockwaves were felt across the entire known world.
Literally overnight, the Ottoman Empire had a new strategic capital, which they renamed Istanbul. They now controlled the incredibly valuable land routes between Europe and Asia. The rest of Christendom was just in total shock. And, this is so important, Byzantine scholars fled west, escaping with all the priceless ancient knowledge they could carry.
And this is where the story goes truly global. So let's trace the long-term echoes of this single event and see how it completely rewired the entire planet.
So think about it from a European perspective. The main highway for trade with the East, the source of all the silk, all the spices, was suddenly controlled by a rival empire that could tax it to death or just cut it off completely.
This created a huge, urgent problem that needed a brand new solution. If you can't go east over land anymore, what do?
You turn to the sea. You have to find another way. And this is the key takeaway. The fall of Constantinople was a direct, massive catalyst for the age of exploration. It forced nations like Portugal and Spain to fund these incredibly risky voyages to find new sea routes. It's why Vasco da Gama sailed around Africa, and it's what sent Christopher Columbus sailing west, where he accidentally bumped into a whole new world.
And remember those fleeing scholars? They brought with them a treasure trove of ancient Greek manuscripts, Plato, Aristotle, Homer, things that had been largely lost to the West. This sudden influx of classical knowledge helped pour gasoline on the intellectual fire we now call the Italian Renaissance.
So you add it all up, the age of exploration, the Renaissance, the rise of a new global power. When you put it all together, it becomes so clear. This one event really was the line in the sand between the medieval and the modern world.
And leaves you with a really powerful thought, doesn't it? A defense that was considered invincible for 1,000 years was brought down by new technology and bold thinking. It kind of makes you wonder what seemingly unbreakable walls in our own time, whether they're technological, political, or social, are just waiting for their own version of a giant cannon.